Okay, so we're talking benefits management. Just a bit of background here first. This is, I guess, primarily related to IT and business change projects where you have, in effect, a project that delivers a capability which will then deliver benefit. So I'm not entirely sure, I'll be honest, how this would apply to construction projects, but hopefully we'll say something that's of interest to everybody anyway. Here's an agenda. So first of all, we'll tell you a little bit about who we are, a bit of background introduction. Ken will then talk about the benefits management process. I'll talk about an approach that, or some approaches that I've seen in retail and CPG organisations. Ken will then talk us through a public sector approach, so pay attention because we'll be dodging and weaving and climbing up and clambering down, so pay attention. And finally, what we're doing next about all this stuff. Ken?
Okay, can everyone hear me? Good. Who are we, TCS? Well, the clue is in Tata. That's probably one of the reasons we're here today. We're part of Tata Group. There's some metrics behind it. It's a very large group, 100+ operating companies, 7 business sectors. Specifically, Tata Consulting Services is in information technology and communications. Most of you will know it as supplying IT solutions. So over 300,000 employees worldwide, 55+ countries, so a very big organization. However, sorry, that way around. We're part of their global consulting practice at Turvers, which has a business consulting focus. So the idea would be that we would lead in and the IT would follow. Various capabilities in our small organization, but David's from the program project management consultancy, and I'm from the management of change with a focus on benefits side of consultancy. So that's why the two of us are effectively here today. In terms of backgrounds, I'll very quickly introduce myself first. Consultancy is my second career. My first career was as an infantry officer in the British Army for 20 years, during which time I managed to wangle a taxpayer to pay for an MBA and a Prince 2 practitioner's course. So those of you who are taxpayers around the year 2000, thank you very much for that, formally. I then went on and rewarded the MOD by jumping ship with the qualifications and went to EDS and Hewlett-Packard as part of their value management capability, and that's where I sort of cut my teeth. And then a year ago, I joined Tata in the management of change stroke benefits practice. David.
Hi, yeah, so David Briggs. My background's been in a couple of industries, primarily in retail. I was with a large UK-based but internationally operating grocery retailer who were in the news yet again today. I left them 4 or 5 years ago. They've gone downhill ever since. It's really, prior to that, I was in various CPG organizations, so manufacturing effectively for retail. So it's been around that retail CPG area. I've been in consultancy over the last 3 or 4 years with IBM and with TCS. So a couple of thoughts before we get into the meat of it. As I was saying, we're focusing on benefits management here. If you look in the literature, you'll find lots and lots of information, lots and lots of descriptions about how to manage cost and how to manage things up to the delivery of a capability. You find very much less information, very much less guidance on how to take that delivery of a capability into the actual achievement of the benefits. And in the end, projects are about the achievement of benefits, not just the delivery of the capability. So Ken and I are focusing very much here on benefits management, that post-capability stage. And a question for you. I won't ask people to raise hands or stand up, sit down, whatever, but a question for you. Project plans. Where does a project plan finish? And just ask yourselves this question about the projects that you're working on at the moment or have worked on in the past. Did the plan finish with the delivery of the software, perhaps after stabilization, when the software is operating and running and has been handed over to live operations? Or did it finish with the delivery of the benefit? And I would contend that the vast majority of programs and projects don't take you through to the delivery of the benefit. And actually, that was the purpose of the project. So something to think about as to whether project plans should go that far, whether you could introduce that. There's always pressure to close projects, and so get them off the books and get back onto another project. But really, we should be taking it further to that point of benefit delivery.
What I'll describe very quickly now is the approach we take at TCS towards benefits management. It's based upon a very well-proven Cranfield business approach. as part of their benefits management study. We've integrated within our, in terms of consultancy, with our program and management of change methodologies. It's consistent across both. It follows an established benefits management life cycle. I'm not going to give you the details of it here. It's all around identifying benefits, validating them, monitoring them, and then delivering those benefits. The basis of our whole approach is a set of benefits management principles. I'm not going to go through them all here. There's just a couple I would like to particularly focus upon. And the first one is, and hopefully this won't come as a surprise to you as program and project managers, is that you are not responsible for the delivery of the benefit. What you do is you deliver the capability. It's actually the business that you deliver to, your customer, that actually delivers the benefit and is responsible for that delivery. And that's quite key, because one of the things you'll see in terms of our approach is, like all things in program and project management and wider, management and responsibility for things is key to seeing things delivered. And so therefore, the delivery of those benefits doesn't rest with the program or the project, it rests with your business. And the other thing that we've taken a focus on is, I think, and probably because of the recent downturn in the economy, a lot of the projects we've been dealing with are very focused upon getting to a financial benefit. We're not saying that there are non-financial benefits, but you'll find a lot of customers now want to see a pound figure against this. And as far as possible, you should strive to present that pound figure. Not always possible. Sometimes there's good reason for it. Sometimes it's not economic in terms of the effort to get there to do that. But if you can't produce a pound figure, at the very basic thing, you need to produce a measure so that that thing can be measured and you can measure against a baseline to prove that it is a benefit and that you've added benefits to the business. The basis of our approach is using a benefits mapping and dependency mapping tool. It's not rocket science. It's a very simple tool. It's a very visual and graphic tool. And supporting this, we run two types of workshop. And this is something you as program project managers, and you could help coordinate this happening. The first one is what we call the solution owners workshop, and the second is the benefit owners workshop. The solution owners workshop, by its very nature, sits within the program and the project. The benefit owners workshops will sit within the business. But you as a program or project manager will be responsible for coordinating both. There's a lot of detail in this in terms around the solution owners workshop, but the key inputs are already there. You've got your PID, you've got your draft business case. Add a little bit to that as an overview of the business organization and also of the key high-level processes are the inputs into the workshop. And the agenda of the workshop is to take them through a benefits mapping process, which I'll come on to in a second, and to establish the level of benefit, and this is a target level, so this is a high-level stab, but most importantly, to identify in the business, using the business organization chart and the high-level processes, who are the likely benefit owners. And that ideally will be somebody with a P&L within the business. In terms of attendees, it's people you'd expect, your program project manager clearly coordinating, but your business analyst or your business proxy will be in there. You have someone from the PMO, you probably have somebody from finance if you're tracking this thing down to a pound sign that can help you identify, as a result of the change you're producing to the business, where that impact's going to fall and where the financial impact might fall. In terms of timing, various organizations I've dealt with have various governance gates, but this is the gate between the initial business case and the detailed business case, because what you're doing here, you're putting detail to the benefits. You're also, as a sideline by going through the process, putting more detail to the cost, and I'll come on to that in a second. The outputs will be a draft benefits map, some provisional KPIs, and as a result of this, hopefully a revised and more detailed business case. I said the structure behind that workshop is around benefits mapping. And so what you do in this particular workshop, you take that stakeholder group and you first of all define the business problem or objective or opportunity that you're trying to address. Having done that, you get somebody, in our cases, being in the IT world, it's usually somebody technical, to talk about the solution. And the key here is to get them to talk at a business level, not a technical level. You then identify the impact of that solution upon the business change. And then, very importantly, you identify the outcomes, how you have changed the business, and define those. And then from those outcomes, you describe what those benefits are. The reason the outcomes are important, because if you're having difficulty putting some metrics around the actual benefit, you can actually put some metrics around the outcomes. And that will help at least get you part of the way to proving that there is a benefit to your particular project. And then finally, identifying a value to that benefit with the help of the finance department, and hopefully an identifiable and accountable owner. So this is very much from the program project side, projecting into the business, saying this is what we're going to do to you, and these are the benefits that we think we're going to produce. Having identified the benefit owner, the accountable owner, you then run the benefit owners workshops. And you take those outputs from your solution owners workshop, and you go and you face off the benefit owner. And you pitch, and you say, you know, I'm the project manager, here's my, you know, technical lead, this is what we're going to do to your bit of the business, this is the outcome we're looking to achieve, and this is a benefit based upon, you know, where we've experienced this before and with the help of our vendors that we think we're going to impact your side of the business, whether it's reduce headcount or increase efficiency, whatever. And you then get the benefit owner to agree and validate those benefits. If he doesn't, you haven't got a benefit, and effectively you haven't got a project. So you need to come to some sort of rationalization with him, and often it's a case you'll go in there with one level of benefit and you'll come away with a reduced benefit, but at least you've got something that's validated that someone's going to sign up to, and I mean sign up to almost contractually, that they're going to help deliver in the business. In terms of attendees, again, the program project manager, any IT specialists, and the business owner, and anybody he likes to bring along to help him. In terms of timing, exactly for the solution owners workshop, it's before you come to the detailed business case. And the outputs there, we get an agreed benefits profile, and we get the key output is a benefits realization plan. And this benefits realization plan is owned by the benefits owner, and it's owned by the business. And it's almost a contractual deal between the business and the program and project supplying it. And so you get what's going to happen in terms of the program project, the impact, the type of benefit, and most importantly, what the business is going to do by way of actions to help deliver that benefit. And almost as importantly, what costs are involved within the business to be able to carry out those actions to deliver that benefit. And the program project manager captures those costs. Because often as program project managers, you will pick up the costs from your side. What gets missed is the costs on the business side. And if you want a true business case and you want a good, interpretation of return on investment, you need to capture those costs in the business as well. And this process allows you to do that. And then at the same time, you can agree metrics and measures and how you're going to baseline it. So that's very quickly a sort of 5-minute run through the process that we'd apply using 2 workshops. We're now going to go through a couple of examples. The first one in the private sector with David, the second one myself in the public sector, of where this has been applied and how it's been applied.
Thank you. So first of all, retail, this same newsworthy UK grocery. What I'm going through here is some specific examples, some stories, and then some conclusions that arise out of that, which are, interestingly, although this was generated independently because it's out of that grocer, lines up pretty directly with what Ken's been saying. So, as a bit of background, that grocery has, they refer to it as the customer contract, these 5 promises that they make for the customer trip, the customer visit. And this is about earning lifetime loyalty so that people keep on coming back to the store, right? And the 5 points of that customer contract shows how much it's been drilled in, because I've been away from there 4 or 5 years. It's still absolutely front of mind. I can get what I want, the prices are good, the aisles are clear, the staff are great, I don't queue. Yeah? And the idea is, if those 5 things are delivered to you when you go around the shop, you'll come back. That's what you're looking for. There's detail behind each of those. And to use the example of queue counting, it's quite interesting. If next time you're in one of these shops, we are being recorded, aren't we? I can't really use the name anyway. But not in the small express stores, but in the metro stores, the supermarkets, can I call them extras? I guess I have to. Above each checkout, there's a camera. And it's actually counting how many people are in the queue. Originally, those cameras were thermal cameras, And they found that in Hungary, in the winter, if it was snowing and people were wearing a hat, and there was snow on the hat, and they were doing a quick trip, trolleys were moving without apparently there being anybody pushing them around. So they had to switch them to actual image cameras, and that's been done now. But the software in there, which is counting how many people are in the queue and working out what the queue length is, it's got to be quite complicated, because if you've got a family there, how do you know that those 4 people are one basket as opposed to 4 baskets? Well, when the till drawer closes, 4 people move away, so you know they were one basket. So there's quite a lot of clever software going on. But that queue count is a genuine KPI which is measured, and it's a fundamental measure for the store manager. He has to keep his queue count down. Yeah. Interestingly, there's no financial value to that. It's a direct support for the 5-point customer contract, and so it's an extremely important measure, but there's no direct financial consequence to it. The retail projects are built by this Ops Development Group, which is a sort of central group that represents retail, okay? And they have an annual savings target. They have a bit of a problem because they have this referred to as the remaining time quandary. If you implement a new project at the start of a financial year, you've got 12 months worth of benefits coming up. The further through the year that you are implementing that change, the less time you've got for it to deliver benefit for you. Yeah? And of course, it's baked into next year's budget, so if you deliver something with only 3 months to go, the next year is going to be in the budget. One of the ways that they operated, this is a bit of a story, but there's some fun in here. They used to have this annual technology showcase, so these guys they were known internally as the toy shop. They literally went around exhibitions and found interesting bits of technology to try. And one of them was thermal printing. So this is going back a few years, obviously. But there are so many tills that actually, if you can take 1 second off a till transaction, that's worth £1 million to the bottom line straight away, right? So the technology showcase, there was a guy working for me, Richard Perry, who was showing this stuff. And he set up 2. There was the old matrix printer and a thermal printer. And David Potts, who was the retail director of this organization, you can now trace them for sure, was just, okay, David, so what you're going to see here, this is the existing printer and this is the new thermal printer. Okay, so what happens? Print. Buzz, 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 and the paper comes through. And this is the new printer. I want one of those on every checkout by the end of the year. I mean, it was just like that. It was the most amazing. That was just it, justified straight away. But that did have a genuine financial saving. As a bit of an aside, there was another piece of the technology showcase once, which was an automatic packer. So these people had put together this thing where at the end of the conveyor belt, instead of just having bags that you got yourself, there was this machine that opened up the bags, right? And the stuff dropped into the bag. So it did depend rather on the person doing the checkout, making sure that they didn't put bleach with eggs, you know? And David Potts watched this for a while, and he stopped and he nodded and he said, yeah, what I'd like to see, please, if you could arrange this, I want to see coming down the conveyor belt, eggs, flour and milk, and then out of the bottom, I want to see a pack of pancakes. We didn't go with that one. So the Ops Development Group were responsible for a lot of those retail projects. An example in CPG, this one I think is, there's some fundamental learnings here, linking outcomes, KPIs and financial benefit. This was a specific project on forecasting. So, clearly, if you get a better forecasting system, you expect to have a more accurate forecast. That forecast ideally, it will help you to reduce your finished goods stock, reduce your raw material stock potential as well, while improving your service level as measured by order fulfillment, right? The issue is that those financial benefits can be hit by many other things that are going on, including the expression that was used at that place. Although they didn't make ice cream, the expression was, but if the sun shines, you sell more ice cream anyway. And your stocks will come down, and your service level, you might have a problem with your service level, but your stocks will come down. So many things affect those financial benefits, not just forecasting. The one thing that a new forecasting tool should deliver, which isn't affected by anything else, is forecast accuracy. So clearly a better forecasting tool will deliver better forecast accuracy. What's interesting then is anybody here from Gartner? Because although I've done a 2x2 matrix, I don't want to join you. Thank you very much. You've got the outcome versus the benefit. So, clearly here, the KPI hasn't improved. I haven't got lower finished goods stock. That's failure. Clearly here, my KPI has improved, and I've got better finished goods stock. That's success. The interesting thing is these two quadrants. So in this one, this is saying I've missed the benefit, finished goods stock. It's still where it was. It hasn't reduced. But my forecast accuracy has improved. So the question is, okay, well, maybe actually that project was a success. Something else has happened which has prevented us from getting the financial benefit of finished goods stock. Maybe the sun didn't shine. Yeah. So that's interesting. This one is potentially even more interesting. What that's saying is that we achieve the financial benefit, but forecasts aren't any more accurate. Now, if you were only measuring the financial benefit, you would perhaps think the project was a success. I've implemented a forecasting system, finished goods stock has come down, Bob's your uncle, everything's fine. But actually, maybe that's happened for some completely different reason, because your forecast accuracy hasn't improved. So there's some interesting questions in those two corners. So some conclusions arising from that and other things. Exactly the same as Ken was saying, the benefits owner presents to the capital board at this grocer. In the end, if the benefit owner is not prepared to present, the project is not going to go ahead. He's got to present, not the IT people. They used Moscow, must, should, could, won't. The different thing there was that there were specific definitions for must, should, could, won't. Must was it's strategically essential. So stockless warehousing, this was in Turkey. They wanted to introduce stockless warehousing for fresh produce. So it's a flow warehouse just going straight through. There's no stock kept anywhere. Clearly, then you've got to have some software that supports that. So that's a strategic essential. Should, it pays for itself in a year. Why wouldn't you? Could, it pays for itself in 3 years, which is the threshold at that organisation. The view there was there are lots of projects that deliver in three years. So if you've got a 3-year payback, that's okay, but it doesn't mean we're necessarily going to do it. We might do it, we might not. Would doesn't pay for itself. Won't. It doesn't pay for itself in 3 years. There were KPI commitments, quite clear KPI commitments, for example, in queue counting and in various other areas. The benefit value and the timing were committed. So when the project was presented to that capital board, it would have a benefit value with a budget, which budget code that benefit affected, and the project is going to be implemented by this time. Therefore, 3 months later, you're allowed 3 months duration, those benefits are starting to, should be starting to appear. And the benefits were baked into the budget. Okay? So if you're saying your finished goods stocks are going to come down, okay, I'm going to take that out of your budget at that point next year. It actually comes out of the budget. Benefits committed, and so what that means then is that the benefits realization planning, the benefits tracking, actually didn't exist as a separate process because it was baked into the budget. So it was simple financial management. You said with this project your stocks would come down. They're coming down next July. I'm taking it out of the budget. All I need to do now is track you against your budget, which I'm doing anyway. Yeah. So that's taking it a stage further. And I think maturity, how far along this road can you go? I think there's a key point here because I worked for Tesco, for 8 or 10 years. And it became, you sort of think, yeah, well, that's how things are. And then you come out and think, oh, actually, that's quite interesting. I don't know that it's easy to get all that way in one step, and I'm not sure what the steps are. But clearly, as a goal, baking budgets into benefits so that they just have to appear. Otherwise, the financial guys are going to spot it anyway. Has got to be a good thing to do. And finally, measure both the KPIs and the financial benefits. Get yourself into a situation where you know, has the project delivered the outcome? Has the outcome resulted in the financial benefit? You've got to measure those 2 stages, not just one. Okay. Ken.
Thanks. This is an example in the public sector. It was a very large infrastructure project with the MOD. At the time, in 2005, when it kicked off, it was the largest infrastructure project in Europe. I think the total capital value at the time, the MOD said was £4 billion. I think the Treasury said it was 5, but they agreed to differ, as you can in the public sector. But what they did was they had a benefits profile already in place, quite a mature one, which for the first 5 years tracked the benefits against a profile, how well the supplier was doing, how well the MOD was doing in terms of the capability it was producing, the benefits it was getting. And there's a review at the 5-year point, and both came to the conclusion and realised, first of all, the customer, the MOD, was that with the money they'd spent, they hadn't got the capability they expected in terms of against the profile. And in terms of the supplier, which was a consortium of 3 large IT suppliers, they weren't making their profit. So quite maturely, they got together and said, right, we need to sort of work this out between us, need to partner. You reckon that you've overspent by this amount, we reckon we're not making this amount of profit. Let's sit down and sort it out for the last 5 years of this project to make sure you get maximum capability and that we can get a reasonable profit out of it. So quite a mature approach, but having that view of the benefits allowed them to do that at the 5-year point. They then sat down and kicked off an optimization program, which is where I and a team became involved. The first thing we had to do was they both had an idea of what the deficit was, okay, how much they were overspent and how much they weren't making profit. So we sat down with the financial people and using a little bit more science than they'd applied thus far, a little bit of common sense, came up with a target figure, which in the case of the MOD, it being a £4 billion budget, was in the hundreds of millions that they were targeting over the last 5 years. And the idea of the optimization project or program was to go across the business, identify a whole portfolio of programs, projects that could deliver saving but still deliver the capability. And so we helped them with that, and we helped them with their portfolio. We did a very quick and dirty estimation about which ones were high value, which were low, high risk, low risk, in what time frame they were likely to deliver, and high level benefits. And having got those and put them into phases of projects, we took the first phase, and as I described before, we started going with each program and project manager. It was in phase 1, and we took them through the solution owners workshop. And then we went on, having identified the benefit owners, and ran the benefit owners workshops. The key thing around the solution owners workshop, a very interesting thing that happened about bringing this and making it more transparent and putting it on a board and using the mapping process, was there was one solution owners workshop where we sat down, and there's myself and a colleague, and there were 3 component parts of the solution owner. There was the supplier, a couple of suppliers, there was the MOD customer, and the MOD ID department. And we asked the project manager to describe exactly what he was going to do. And we asked those 3 component parts, what problem are you solving? And the first person identified one problem. The second person identified a completely different problem. And the third person identified a completely different problem still. So for a second then, I thought we'd found the silver bullet. 3 problems, 1 solution. It was not the case. The solution owners and those different component parts didn't understand what they were solving, and they didn't understand what the solution was. So by running that solution owners workshop, we managed to iron that one very major issue out in a very transparent way. We then took them through the process of identifying the benefits, and we identified the benefit owner within the business. So having done that and ran the benefit owners workshops, we got it down to 8 P&L owners that effectively, at a high level, were going to receive all the benefit. And we then organised the benefit owners workshop such that they had 4 or 5 project managers in front of them, all pitching to say that they were going to save their bit of the business X amount of money. And the beauty of that, having them all in one workshop and in one room pitching, was that often you get a duplication of benefits. And how do you know in a large program or series of projects that you've got duplication? Well, when you've got a series of project managers pointing at a benefit owner and saying, I'm going to save you 2 people, and the next person says, I'm going to save you 2, and the third and the fourth, so you get a total of 8 people being saved, and he can say, well, actually, in that team, I've only got 6, so something has gone wrong. It's a very useful thing to have, and you can then sort of part out actually who's delivering what benefit and who's going to take those benefits away, okay, as a solution owner. They put together their own benefits realization plan. It forced them within their own business units to identify the activity they needed, be it training or organizational redesign they needed to do. They made people responsible for that within their own business unit, responsibility and ownership being key. And having done that, the other thing that happened was, as with all projects, and with projects tool associated with it, they ran the projects and the project ended. When a project ends, program project managers and the PMO want to close the project off. They don't want people putting added costs at the date at the end of the project. And they were closing it. The problem being was that the benefit wasn't realized. The benefit wasn't realized until 2, 3, 6, or 12 months later in terms of the benefit profile. But what we did have was we had the benefit owner, and we had the benefits realization plan, and he was a person responsible to the board for tracking those benefits. So the project manager could run away and say, yes, I've done it to time, I've done it to cost, I've done it to quality, I'm claiming success, but 3 months later, someone could haul him back and say, actually, let's investigate this, because we've not, in the benefits profile, we haven't seen the benefit of that, and so where's this gone wrong? Okay, so that was the benefit of that. And as I say, we're very lucky to get some plaudits from the OGC, which is very difficult to get any plaudits out of those. But it was seen as a very positive experience. Admittedly, at this stage, a large program, large projects, but at a lesser extent, the same sort of methodology can be used with some smaller projects. The key lesson learned, we got the common understanding by getting the right people in the room early on in the project. And you'll be getting, as a program project manager, some of those people in the room anyway to tie down requirements and other bits and pieces, to look at the change management aspects. While you've got them in the room, throw a benefits map up, produce something and talk benefits at the same time. The benefits were validated. Everybody comes in and does this benchmarking and says, when we did this in another company, we achieved this amount of benefit. Well, every company is different. By going to the benefit owner, those benefits invariably came down. They were reduced, but they were more realistic. I'm sure most of you have experienced that on your project. If you have tracked the benefits, you'll start off with a big bunch of benefits, and as you go through the life of the project, the benefit will come down, the costs will go up, and they'll meet somewhere. It's much better to know realistically what you're dealing with in terms of that profile earlier on in your program or project. Recently, I was dealing with the pharmaceutical industry, and one of the program and project managers there had a problem of engaging with the business, because they have difficulty getting time with the business, or they'd have a business proxy who would turn up, and when they came to do something further down the project, like a user acceptance trial, when they're delivering, it'd be a different person. By engaging the business at the earlier stage, and by getting that management sponsorship and the ownership of the component parts of the benefits in the project, the business was more engaged. It became more of a business's project than the IT department's project or the PMO's project. Again, the financial benefits, there was a great push down on that, and it was a financially driven program. It's an optimization program. So we identified those who are very happy. But there's also a requirement, and I've discovered this on a recent project, especially if you're using sort of, there's a big thing at the moment within program project management about time bounding your projects. I'm looking to have people come across that, where what they're saying is, if you can, your smaller projects have to be 6 months and no longer, and you have to be able to deliver in that 6-month period. The reason behind, there's many advantages to that in terms of the impact upon change is reduced, et cetera, et cetera. But one of the problems as this organization was finding in doing that was that you had project managers who, when they were doing their work packages, were working out that that project was actually 8 months long. But under pressure to get it through governance at 6 months, they were loading their project with resources and increasing the cost. And the business case was getting undermined. And what we managed to persuade them to do was to look at it in terms of benefit. So that they could go to the governance board and say, yeah, my project is 8 or 9 months long, but at the 6-month point, I can prove to you that we will have delivered capability, and with a sign-up of a business owner, we also will deliver benefit at the 6-month point, and we'll phase the project. Phase 1 will be 6 months, phase 2 will be the following 3 months. And that was accepted by that organization, a much more mature way of doing it than trying to front-load a lot of your projects if you're looking at sort of time boxing your projects. So another reason why looking at the benefits can be an advantage to you as a program and project manager.
This is just what Ken and I will be doing next at TCS. Ken's heading up a centre of practice.
Yeah.
Centre of practice. The names have changed occasionally, but centre of practice is what we've finished up with. So Ken's heading it up, and I'm part of the team that's helping Ken to deliver it. Our goal is a focus for the development of a common approach to benefits management, including the development of capability, collateral, and tools to be employed with clients to add value and improve our, TCS, not just Ken and Mike, but ours as well, and improve our profile. What we're trying to do is to drive into the business change and the program management teams at TCS an understanding of benefits management and an understanding of how that can impact projects and how it can help our clients with the delivery of their projects. So we're developing operating practices and collateral, but Ken and I obviously ready and willing to talk to anybody who wants any more background on benefits management whenever you want us to come along. So feel free. I'm sure our numbers are in the literature somewhere. I've got cards with me, and I'm sure Ken's got cards with me, so come up and talk if you want to. But that's us done. We've achieved our time objective, I think, pretty well. Quality and cost I'll leave to you to assess. Thanks very much.